Well, good evening. My name is Rodney Sampson. I am the Executive Chairman and CEO of Opportunity Hub, and I am excited to be the final guest speaker and lecturer for Trillionaire Thursdays, brought to you by Birth Cathedral, Opportunity Hub, and First Boulevard. I've had the opportunity to watch some of the previous sessions, and to follow them is quite an honor. Of course, to be at Birth Cathedral under the leadership of Dr. Jamal Bryant, I want to say in his absentia, thank you for this opportunity. To the Birth family, to the Opportunity Hub community, the founders of First Boulevard Bank, and to all of the future innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors that are tuned in. Of course, I'm grateful that my wife of 22 years is here with me tonight as I make my first live in-person presentation after sheltering in place for more than a year and a half. First and foremost, I am grateful to be alive. If you are grateful to be alive, why don't we just take a minute and give honor and praises to our Father God, to Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and to the angels that have protected us through a pandemic. Why don't you just take a minute and give God some praise this evening? Wherever you are, this is a perfect opportunity for you to take a 10-second, maybe a nanosecond praise break and just thank God for your existence in this particular time and place in society and in humanity. Really quickly, make sure that you are amplifying. This is a great opportunity for us to create Facebook parties and to share this and to amplify this across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Signal, whatever your social media platform of choice. Let's make sure that we go far and wide. Well, tonight we're going to have a lecture. I'm not going to take a lot of time and tell you about myself, but something contextual is I remember coming to Birth Cathedral over 20 years ago as the co-founder and chief executive officer of streamingfaith.com. Yep, I'm that kid, used to have the long ponytail 20 plus years ago, and it's excited to be back at Birth. So if you would go to this URL, this website, I'll give you the syllabus for this evening. It's in alignment with the theme of Trillionaire Thursdays, and the website is www.trilliondollarchallenge.us. .us or .us. That's www.trilliondollarchallenge.us. If you do want to know more about who I am and my respective journey, let's connect on LinkedIn. There's more information there. I mentioned earlier that I'm the chairman and executive CEO of Opportunity Hub. It's a business, a social enterprise, a foundation, and even a venture fund that invests in technology startups founded by Black women and men. It's a for us, by us approach to ensuring racial equity in particular in the innovation, the entrepreneurship, and the investment ecosystem as a path for Black Americans and beyond, Latinx Americans and beyond, indigenous people of color and beyond to be equitably represented. And that word equity is key, equitably represented in what we call the technology ecosystem, the future of work, the fourth industrial revolution, and beyond. So I'm going to give you some solutions this evening. Before I do that, I want to lay a foundation. And if you go to the syllabus at www.trilliondollarchallenge.us, again, trilliondollarchallenge.us, if you would drop that in the chat, I want to make sure everybody has access to information. Reminds me of growing up, coming home after elementary school, turning on that TV and watching G.I. Joe, and you know what he said, knowing was what? Half the battle. All right? Foundation. So on the syllabus, you'll see at the top of the syllabus under foundational point number 1, fourth industrial revolution. What is the fourth industrial revolution that our planet and world and society has entered into that has now been accelerated by the global pandemic? To understand the fourth industrial revolution, you have to understand what the first and the second and the third industrial revolutions were. The first industrial revolution was the productization and commercialization of water into the steam engine. With every industrial revolution, we have seen a growth in society of industry and infrastructure. So the first industrial revolution commercialized and expanded water and steam. The second industrial revolution expanded through electricity, gas, and oil. And I know folks have been complaining and couldn't get gas across the country, particularly the Southeast. And that second industrial revolution collided this week with the fourth industrial revolution with the cyber hacks and the cyber attacks that we had on the Colonial Pipeline. The third industrial revolution was the commercialization and the expansion of mobile devices, cellular phones, and computers. And the fourth industrial revolution started with the internet and now is the convergence of technology in every aspect of our lives through what is called automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain, robotics, and advanced manufacturing. Now, if you're just hearing some of these words for the first time, you can write them down, you can play this back, you can run it back, but it's important for you to understand what types of technology are driving the fourth industrial revolution. Now, right here at the intersection of technology and economics is justice, because there's really a starting industrial revolution that is not spoken about in society and our communities, but as black and brown folks and allies, we fight for it every day. The first industrial revolution was the commercialization of black people in the form of chattel slavery, whereby for over 400 years, we were institutionalized and commercialized as the currency by which multi-generational wealth was created. Now, this is how things come full circle. For the first time in history, because of the fourth industrial revolution and because of the third industrial revolution, we are able to create new multi-generational wealth, hear this, with no reliance on pre-existing multi-generational wealth. In the first generation, in the first industrial revolution, you had to have wealth to create wealth. In the second industrial revolution, you had to have wealth to create wealth. In the third industrial revolution, you had to have wealth to create wealth. But in the fourth industrial revolution, with your ability to think and to create and to code and to build and to sell and to enter into what is called the technology ecosystem, the future of work, and the fourth industrial revolution, we together have the opportunity to create shared prosperity and multi-generational wealth without any pre-existing wealth. Now, if you're shouting, folks, That's a great opportunity for you to shout right there. All right, going down the syllabus at trilliondollarchallenge.us.us, here's some more data for you. Tech's racial equity gap is costing Black and Latinx workers $50 billion a year. Do you hear me? Technology's racial equity gap, according to HRNA advisors, is costing Black and Latinx workers $50 billion a year. $50 billion a year times 20 years, which is a generation, is $1 trillion. You see why we have to have a $1 trillion challenge? Because currently, Black Americans, brown Americans are missing out on $50 billion a year in income. We can't talk about wealth. We can't talk about racial wealth gap and closing that until we close the racial income gap. According to HRNA advisors, there should be 1.1 million Black and Latinx workers in the technology ecosystem today, okay, in the technology community, working on tech jobs, working at startups, working at venture funds, at private equity funds, at research institutions, at incubators, at accelerators. I want you to run this back and listen to this later. Go back to the syllabus. These are industries in the technology ecosystem where we should be working and we're not. And so we have a $1 trillion challenge. Next foundational principle is a collaborative report released by the Brookings Institution and the Federal Reserve Bank, which is our nation's central bank, is that through technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship, Black, Latinx, and indigenous people can spur economic recovery in our local communities. I want you to read that research and report at your convenience. The next foundational truth is that there is a global technology, startup, and venture ecosystem that is shaping our future of existence. It includes research institutions, colleges and universities, boot camps, innovation districts, equity districts, tech hubs, co-working spaces, incubators, accelerators, seed funds, entrepreneurs, investors, workers, employees, advisors, builders, developers, and beyond. I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered where publicly traded companies come from? Have you ever wondered where the next hot stock, the next big company comes from? It comes out of technology hubs that are popping up in cities across America, not just in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, not just in New York or Seattle or Boston, but here in Atlanta, in metropolitan Atlanta, in Fargo, North Dakota, in Detroit, Michigan, in New Orleans, Louisiana, in Dallas, Texas, in Houston, Texas, in the District of Columbia, in York, Pennsylvania, in Utica, New York, in Brooklyn. All over this country, we are seeing pockets of innovation and entrepreneurship and investment come online. And my question to the Black people and the brown people that are listening is, where are you in this ecosystem? The next foundational principle here is a mind without barriers creates ideas without limitations. A mind without barriers creates ideas without limitations. I capture this principle in my fourth book entitled Kingonomics, 12 Innovative Currencies for Transforming Your Business and Life, inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A little bit more of history. When I released that book almost 8 years ago, it was here at New Birth in the main sanctuary. Our tie to New Birth and bringing Kingonomics, bringing the case for innovation and entrepreneurship and investment has been interlocked for almost 2 decades. Now, let's jump into solutions. So again, if you're just joining us and you want to get the syllabus, make sure you go to trilliondollarchallenge.us. If you've been in the chat, let's make sure that we drop that. Make sure we're posting, screen capturing, sharing this video. Let's go viral today. Okay? First solution is you got to be in the community. There's an ecosystem of technology, startups, and venture, and you've got to be into the ecosystem. So I want to encourage you to join OHub to begin your journey to multi-generational wealth creation today. That's the first thing. The second thing is there is a Black innovation economy. There is a Black technology startup community, venture fund community, which I've been a part of 20 plus years, and it's important for you to get insights into this community. So I want to encourage you to click the link on the syllabus and go learn more about The Plug, which was founded by a Black woman, and use the promo code OHUB so you can get a discount if you decide to subscribe. It's important for you to see Black innovators and entrepreneurs and investors every day in your inbox, because if you can't envision it, you can't manifest it. Type that in the chat. If you can't envision it, you can't manifest it. That's why prophets are a part of the fivefold ministry, is because they are given a glimpse of the future so that they can inspire us through faith and works to manifest that in our respective lives. And the prophetic works with the apostolic, because the apostolic brings the resources through Acts 4 and 32 to fund the prophetic manifestation of kingdom operations in this realm. Next, upskilling is important. And you may feel like, I don't have a college degree. I don't have an associate's degree. I wasn't able to complete my high school diploma. What if I told you that there are millions of technology jobs that do not require for you to have a terminal college degree? America is at a crossroads that we must now upskill and reskill millions of Americans to prepare for the jobs of today, which become the jobs of the future. So in the syllabus, you'll see that one of the career pathways is a full stack software developer, data science, or UX design track. What is that, you say? These people are the people who sit at computers and they type and they code and they build mobile apps, they build web applications, they build software, they tell computers what to do, they design the front end. Maybe you're that person who has a knack for what the front end looks like. You've been a creative person. You can literally bring your ideas to life for yourself, for your company, or for the companies that you work for. Full stack software development, data science, UI and UX, user interface and user experience. Another skill is becoming a cybersecurity specialist. Okay, there's a link for you to get more information about becoming a cybersecurity specialist. We saw in the last week that there is a demand for ethical cybersecurity specialists and ethical hackers, people who are paid to break into stuff so that they can keep other people from breaking into it. You said, wait, you can get paid to keep people out of your network or try to break a network? Absolutely. And that is called a cybersecurity specialist. Okay? Moving down the syllabus, upskilling, you can accelerate your career in software sales. Okay? What is software sales? Simply, every technology company on the planet You got a group of people building the software, and you got a group of people on the phones, on the internet, on LinkedIn, calling other companies or calling people and selling that software. If you build it and can't sell it, there's no fulfillment or success or significance in that. So the salesperson or the sales team is just as important as the software engineering team. You may be sitting there, well, I'm pretty good at talking. I'm used to being told no. I mean, heck, black folks been rejected for 400 years. We understand how to handle a no. Matter of fact, that's our unfair advantage. You tell me no, okay, great, next. Oh, okay, bye. That is a skill set, handling rejection and being able to listen and learn and provide value to people. There are salespeople in technology companies making hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars at scale. These are very tangible skills that you can learn through these rapid reskilling boot camps that will have you in your career path in no time, okay? I'm not just gonna tell you we've gotta be in tech. Okay, great. How do you actually get into tech outside of how most people are in tech? And you know how it is? We're the consumers. We consume the tech. We tip over every major tech company. I'll give you an example. I remember having this conversation with some of the leaders of Black Lives Matter when Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson. I want you to listen to me. And the conversation was, before you organize your social media campaign and tell police departments around the nation to buy vests and to buy cameras and to install software and to do training, why don't we organize and go buy stock in the publicly traded companies? If you are an everyday person, you can go to the stock market. Or if you are a rich person or an accredited investor, per the Securities and Exchange Commission. I want you to look that up, Securities and Exchange Commission. We're going to talk a little bit about that briefly. What if we went and bought stock in those companies? What if our mega churches and our athletes and our professional entertainers and our rappers, what if we invested in Twitter, in Facebook, in Clubhouse, in 7th Avenue? What if we could have had black investors in streaming faith 22 years ago? Imagine if we could have been investors in Facebook when Peter Thiel invested $500,000. That when they went public, hear this, when Facebook went public, that $500,000 investment was worth $450 million. What if we could have been investors in Emmett McHenry, a black man who was the original founder of Network Solutions, which had a sole source contract from our United States government to license and sell domain names globally. And my friend, who's now part of our venture fund, Emmett McHenry, couldn't raise $5 million from the community, from the people he knew, from the who's who of black excellence and black wealth. And he took a term sheet that required him to give away most of the company. And the people who bought it from Emmett 5 years later sold it for tens of billions of dollars. Think about it. If HBCUs put $50,000 or $100,000 in a black-owned venture fund or a black-owned technology startup company, we're seeing multi-generational wealth being created before our eyes because we are the users of the technology, but we are not the investors in the technology. Which leads me to my next tier on the outline. In collaboration with UNC Chapel Hill Keenan Flagler Business School, Duke University, and Stanford Technology Venture Lab, Opportunity Hub, and 100 Black Angels and Allies, you can become certified in Black technology investment. We will teach you how to invest in Black tech companies, in Black venture funds. And I'm so thankful for investment relationships and wealth creating relationships with organizations like the Links Incorporated that have been pedestals in our community for more than 70 years, influencers, affluent, that made an investment in Black tech ecosystem. Another certificate, here's another skill that you can get through this same collaboration with Stanford, Duke, and UNC Chapel Hill, Kenan Flagler. We have pulled Ivy League with top schools together to create these certifications that are respected in industry. Many technology companies, large and small, are looking for chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officers to help them become better companies. Imagine the opportunity for you to become certified in this skill and bring all of your grit, your perseverance, your knowledge, your experience to the table to help a new tech company or a big tech company. And I can tell you, every technology company in the world is lacking in authentic diversity, equity, and inclusion. We literally could own the marketplace with this skill set, okay? All right, we're in class. We are in class. Let's keep moving down. Now I'm gonna switch from learning to investing, okay? This is not investment advice. I'm not a registered investment advisor. I am a venture capitalist in the private markets, angel investor, but I want to make sure you understand that this is not investment advice. But I want to give you some tools and resources that you should do your own due diligence and that you should consider downloading or participating in. These are very, very important. First and foremost, we hear a lot about Bank Black. Well, thanks to our partners at First Boulevard, I'm honored to be a part of their advisory board as a senior advisor. As they come online, jump on the wait list. They've got some incredible things going on. They've been a partner and a sponsor to Trillionaire Thursdays, and we're just getting started. Make sure that you are banking Black as a start, and make sure that you are using these tools, these resources, to ensure that you have, hear this, not just financial literacy, but financial mobility. Type that in the chat. Tweet that, hashtag financial mobility. You want to be able to have economic freedom because you have the mobility to move without issue. Great, you're banking Black, but that doesn't automatically make sure you create wealth. But you can do your part. Hear this. Because when banks have capital, money, deposits under management, they go to the federal government, 10x that as lending capability. So think about this. If a bank had $1 billion in assets or $10 billion in deposits under management, they now can borrow $10 billion or $100 billion, $1 trillion. See the math? That's why it's important for you to support a Black bank, not just because you got a bank account over there, but they get lending power. Somebody say power, lending power. Okay? Next, saving is important. Now, there's not a financial literacy course you've been to where they did not focus on having a budget, paying your bills, saving. I grew up tithe 10, save 10, spend the rest like crazy. They didn't teach us about investing. They didn't teach us about investing, but we were taught to tithe 10, save 10. Now you got to invest 20 because you're living beneath your means so that you can create multi-generational wealth and pass that down to your children's children. But you got to save. So in the syllabus, there's a link to an artificial intelligence app that I was a part of the founding board of advisors. You say, you're on the board of all of this stuff. Well, I've been around for 20 years, and what I realize is I found my niche, and I found my value proposition, and I found that value proposition was valuable to someone else, and I went where others would not go. I didn't follow the status quo. So you might not know about First Boulevard today, but when they become a $1 trillion bank, then you're going to say, oh, that's that guy, he said that back then. But no, you can be a part of it. Nobody knew about Digit years ago, and I believed in the founder, Ethan Block, and participated in helping him come online and bring to market. And now he has an endorsement deal with Steve Harvey. Now everyone knows about it. Can you get in at the ground level of an opportunity before it goes public? See, when the company goes public, it's really too late. I'm not going to go deep here, but years ago when Bishop was here, he invited me to speak, and I gave a message entitled, "The Case for Innovation in the Kingdom." And I want you to search this. I'm sure it's in the archives of the video here, but we talked about the innovation curve. And if you search that right now, you will see the innovation curve, and you will see that there are early adopters, the disruptors, and then there's the status quo, the people who are jumping on at once it's become. Like, for instance, this phone, or if you got an iPhone 12, that purple one, I've been looking at it, okay. When the innovation hits the market, it's not innovation anymore. It was innovation when it was in Steve Jobs' lab a decade ago. You see where I'm going with this? What we call innovation sometimes is just the excitement of imitation. And we get excited about imitating something we saw, thinking that the people who we're now communicating it to have not even seen it themselves. So you want to position yourself, you want to bet on grit, you want to bet on early. That's what's important. Next, there's a lot of conversation in the market about blockchain and crypto. The first step is you've got to educate yourself. See, most of the market has been focused on crypto and these coins that are going up and down. Is it Dogecoin? Is it Ethereum? Is it Litecoin? And I ask people when they start bragging on a coin, great, tell me the thesis of the white paper or the research or the use case behind the coin. Have you actually done the diligence on how the technology is being used or can be applied? Because behind every crypto is an underlying technology that makes Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin work. And then I want you to understand the philosophies of the creators of these cryptos. They call themselves contrarians. You know, and when you study, if you just look at it face value, you'll say, oh, it's just a bunch of disruptors. It's people who think the system should be torn down. And I think the kingdom, we're missing an opportunity to do a parallel between the contrarian thesis or archetype, because Jesus was a contrarian. Jesus juxtaposed against, when you compare Jesus to the Sadducees and the Pharisees, they had the form, they had the ritual, they had the systems, they had the institutions, but they didn't have the innovation. Christ had the innovation, which he knew was the blood. He knew that was Christ. Are you following me? He knew that he had an assignment that people did not understand, but because of his innovation and the ability to transform water into wine, to accelerate a process through a miracle, to heal people, to raise the dead, to call people who had been entombed like Lazarus forward, he used the disruption and the contrarian platform to transform, build disciples, and transform the world. So when I look at new technology and innovations, I'm looking at it, and I'm giving you a little bit of the thinking and the mindset here is, if you take Christ and you believe in the divinity of Christ, not Christ in his humanity, but Christ in his divinity, you'll realize that when Christ does something, it impacts past, present, and future. It is what we call omnipresence. So when I look at software and technology and the speed and the fulfillment and the efficiency of it, all I see it is Christ. I see God. I see the divine. I see angelic. I see divine provision. I don't look at that and say that's the devil. Because Satan context only imitates and doesn't create anything. And if we as the kingdom, we as Christ followers are to emulate through our assignment and our definitive purpose, which is to become more like him, more like Christ, then we are called to be the innovators. We're called to be the entrepreneurs. We're called to be the investors. When we say we're called to be the head and not the tail, the lender and not the borrower, you can't be a lender if you don't have income to invest. Lenders are investors. So when we start to connect and to parallel, we actually have an unfair advantage because we've been growing up with kingdom terminology and kingdom articulation and kingdom practice, and the black church experience has built us. The black experience in the Americas has literally built us to be the best innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors. Why? Because we can handle failure. We can handle rejection. We can handle anything that's thrown our way. And so, as black people in America, as black believers in America and beyond, many of us are living beneath our existence and our privilege and our calling. All right, I wasn't asked to come preach tonight, so let me get back to my solutions. All right, so it's important for you to understand blockchain because blockchain is the underlying basis to crypto. Now, I think everyone ought to have a crypto account, and I think you should, at your discretion and with frequency, purchase increments of cryptos that you have done the research on and the diligence that align with your definitive purpose. And you should consistently, because we don't know when, but I will tell you that everything in the fourth industrial revolution is being digitized. Money is being digitized as well. Don't think we're going to have all technology and money. I have watched the evolution of technology in the church, having been a streaming pioneer, an inventor of streaming software and platforms, and how we built giving solutions. Many of you who watched 20 plus years ago Streaming Faith, where you could watch the video and you could click and use your credit card. And now everything is on the app, and it makes it seamless. And that's why many churches were prepared for the pandemic and why many of them closed their doors. Is because they were not early adopters of technology and innovation. And so we must break that generational curse inside of our communities and inside of the institution of church, college and university, Divine Nine Greek, civil rights organization. Every black institution should be using this opportunity, this pandemic, to reset itself for the next 50 to 100 years. And it is incredibly important that our black tech ecosystem merge with our black social justice. Black Lives Matter has to merge with Black Tech Matters. When we merge black tech and black justice, when we create wealth together, going back to the analogy, the example I gave about Michael Brown, police kill Michael Brown. Who appoints the police chief? A mayor. Who elects a mayor? The members of a community with their money and their vote. And if you've got money, you can influence an election. And you can influence the appointment of leaders who will transform policy with disruptive ideas rather than just articulating something and getting behind closed doors and compromising the policy that comes forward. That's why black tech and black economic justice must come together. We can't be in the streets. We can't be in the media. We can't be in publishing saying, I don't know anything about black tech. And I can't be in black tech saying, I don't know about social justice. We black first. Everything else must be merged. Next in the syllabus is real estate. I saw my brother and sister, Ernestine Morrison, Jay Morrison, the first two presenters of Trillionaire Thursday. I don't know if you all realize how they merge community building with real estate investing with equity crowdfunding. Now, some would say I was one of the pioneers of equity crowdfunding in this nation, which was a law signed by President Barack Obama on April the 4th or April the 5th, 2012. I want you to go look up, research, Jumpstart Our Business Startups Act. JOBS Act was one of the most bipartisan pieces of legislation in the Obama administration. And it was said that President Obama at the time said off the record that this legislation has the potential to have a greater impact than the emancipation of the Southern slaves and the policy of Reconstruction before the Deconstruction era. Do you understand when a sitting U.S. president with all of the information, knowledge, and intelligentsia that they have can speak and say that a piece of legislation that had bipartisan support, what does that mean if you understand that political area? Because I know you're not just voting and not understanding how policy works at the federal, state, county, and municipal level. That means Speaker of the House Boehner at the time had to collaborate with the White House to pass a bill, and they did it. That means the Tea Party at the time had to collaborate with what I call the coffee party. That means Maxine Waters on the Finance Committee had to work with this Tea Party patriot out of Tennessee to pass legislation. That's like saying white supremacy and the arc of moral justice merging together to do something. And they did it. They did it with that bill. And the Morrisons used that law, equity crowdfunding, to raise for Tulsa Real Estate Fund. But we're just at the very beginning of crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding. And so I have a link there for you to learn more about how to invest in crowdfunding through real estate. And then I have another link there for you to learn how to invest in new startup companies. And not for you just to learn how to invest, but for you to also learn how to use these innovations, use these new laws to your advantage. Because I'll tell you what, McKinsey & Company, large consultancy, large research and advisory firm, predicted that in this decade, which has now been accelerated by the pandemic, in this decade, 4.5 million jobs occupied by black people would go away. Do you hear me? 4.5 million jobs. That is over 10 or nearly 10% of the jobs of the 44 million black people in this country will go away because of automation. In this pandemic, we saw 39% job loss by black people. We saw people working in retail never go back. And when things opened up, they were invited to come work in a warehouse. And they called it a tech worker. Reminds me of Charles King's movie, Sorry to Bother You, right? Think about a modern day indentured servitude where you have no rights and you, with your fancy degrees and certificates and your diverse tongues, have to go and work in a warehouse for the rest of your life. Because a drone and because a robot has greater value to that company than a human being. Now, I'm not saying that's not honest work. If you're doing that right now, you keep working, but you get some upskilling, because everything that seems simple that a human is doing, robots are being created to do it. Driving for Uber and Lyft today, they already are building autonomous units. I'm watching TV. I probably have watched more TV in this pandemic than I watched in the last 2 decades. And I'm seeing Domino's, you've seen it, Domino's is using and testing drones to deliver your pizza. Your Supreme Pizza is being delivered by a drone. What happens to the worker who was delivering pizzas? If they stop delivering pizzas, do they have livelihood? Where do they go? Have you seen them testing out the kiosks in McDonald's? And now, because of social distancing and because of the pandemic, they're using robots in all types of places. They're starting to use robots in the warehouses, so that's even temporary. So what happens when black people and white people and Asian people and straight people and gay people can't come together? Republicans and Democrats, we can't come together, and then we find out that our enemy is not the human, but it's the robot. Because the robot has taken the jobs. Why? Because the technologists, with their contrarian efficiency, believe that efficiency should come at all costs. No humanity, no mistakes, no empathy, this quest for perfection. And we see that on our jobs every day. You know why we see it? Because when we make a mistake, they write us up. When they make a mistake, they promote them. Okay? And so it's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important for us to reset as black people, to reset as Americans, and to focus on initiatives for scale. It's time out for performative conversations, hashtag initiatives. We've got to sit down and we've got to figure out stuff like this. How do we make sure that every black family has one software developer in it, one tech entrepreneur, one tech salesperson, one creative person, one storyteller? I just created a whole company, a whole ecosystem in a household. What if one person in your family, your entire family had to depend on you because you worked in tech? What happens when we get 10 people in tech on a block? They can transform blighted communities into safe spaces. We better do it, because now the big tech companies are coming even to Atlanta. Microsoft is setting up its HQ2 in Grove Park. Now, I'm from SWATS. I'm from Southwest Atlanta. I went to Doug High School. You could, throw a stone, and if you had a little Superman, Superwoman power, you could hit Grove Park. You know Grove Park, where you better not break down at night, Grove Park? Okay? 90 acres. Do you understand that innovation intensity, that innovation density will displace your aunts, your grandmothers, your big mamas, your family houses? It might not be much, but it was what you own. Why? Because it's just like going to a conference when things were open. And you hit a city, and guess what? All-Star game is in town, Super Bowl, Uber goes up, right? Ride sharing goes up. Surge. Imagine everything in your life being on surge, because you got 20,000 people that are making 6 figures. Now, that's just the economic part. What happens when our non-black friends, brothers and sisters start walking their dogs down the street. And you got to worry about them calling the police on your kids who are second, third, fourth generation in that community. It becomes a matter of survival, but it also becomes a matter of national security. About a month ago, I was invited to a meeting in Austin, Texas. I contemplated not going. I decided to go. It was my first trip in over a year. And I decided to go to sit with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The top 23 of the top generals in the world were there in a convening at UT Austin, looking at the technology and the innovation to fight wars. But you know what kept coming up? And to protect our borders. You know what kept coming up as a national security issue? Unemployment. What happens when people can't work, when people cannot generate income? See, if we're not participating in the future of work, it was Dr. King that talked about chaos or community, which was the thesis for my book, Kingonomics. Where do we go from here? When people can't survive, they're not thinking about tithes. When people can't eat, they're not talking about offering. I don't care if you've got all the fancy technologies and the streaming platforms and the giving apps. It does not matter when people cannot survive. And so for the first time in history, we as a people have the opportunity to center and to apply pressure on white supremacist systems that have not allowed us to participate in the wealth creation in this country. I'll close with this statement. A mind without barriers creates ideas without limitations. A mind without barriers creates ideas without limitations. What barriers are you allowing? What barriers are you allowing to stifle your dream, stifle your innovation, stifle your entrepreneurship, stifle your possibilities, stifle your vision, stifle your wealth, stifle your legacy? Thank you for listening.